Sometimes it feels like we are just walking around with a version of ourselves that we have pieced together from bits and pieces. Some are from what we think we are, others are from what other people say we are. And it's quite strange, isn't it? We form this self image, but how much of it is actually us? Or is it just a reflection of how others see us and what we want to hear from them? And here's my question: what actually happens when this reflection is not there? When the validation we expect from the outside world does not show up and we are left staring in the mirror, trying to figure out if what we are even looking at is actually us.
This is sometimes curious, often confused. I'm Richard Okonwo. If you have ever felt a little out of place, you're in the right spot. Here, we explore the questions most people overlook without pretending to have all the answers. The awkward, the oddly relatable, the ones that make you wonder, am I the only one thinking about this? If you are curious enough to keep asking, you are exactly where you need to be.
So, in this episode, I want to talk about the idea of self perception and validation. How does the way we see ourselves tie into what others reflect back to us? And how do we navigate this tension when that approval that we keep craving, that we keep looking for, when it does not show up, when it is not there? And how do we separate the version of us that is rooted in validation from the version that is actually authentic? So we know that sometimes it feels like we are all just walking around with a version of ourselves we have pieced together. And a lot of times it seems as if we are trying to figure out who we really are. We can't really define ourselves. And we, crave to have this insight. We want to know who we are. We might already have an opinion of who we think we are, but we are a bit hesitant to say it out or to tell people, maybe I think I look good, because we are scared of people saying maybe we are too proud of ourselves. So, what's the best way to do it, in our opinion? We go to people and we ask them, or maybe even without asking them, they come to us and they tell us what they think about us, how they think we are this kind of a person. And because of how our mind has been shaped over the years, we take it all in, and nonetheless, we take them in and we tell ourselves that these people are people that care about us. I mean, a lot of people, not everyone, of course. There is no way they can lie to us. And it's very, very understandable because you're trying to understand yourself, you're trying to figure something out. You're like a novice. You are still learning yourself like a handiwork. And you need people's opinion, or so you think. You need people's validation to know that, yes, this is who I am. I'm a very good communicator. I'm a good friend. I'm a good person. I care about other people. But I don't have to say it. I mean, I don't want to say it. I want to sometimes, but I can't say it because it would seem as if I'm the one saying all these things about myself. And there is also this argument that we are not allowed to define ourselves. We're not allowed to explain who we are. I mean, it's kind of an unwritten rule. No one actually sat down and gave that commandment that we shouldn't define ourselves or we shouldn't explain who we are. But it's very, very difficult for us to define ourselves, to give an explanation of who we think we are, because of this fear of being labeled as one kind thing like that. So I want to talk about this idea of self-perception. And the whole idea of self-perception is how we see ourselves. A lot of times we are not kind to ourselves. We are not kind to ourselves, especially people that are overly self-aware. Sometimes this self-awareness turns into self-sabotage. We are not kind to ourselves because um, we see a lot of behind the scenes. I mean, who sees your own behind the scenes more than you? Nobody. You're the one that sees it the most. I'm the one that knows the mistakes that I make while I'm working on something. Do you understand? I'm the one that knows it the most. I know when I made a mistake, except if it is a field that I am, except it is a field I lack. expertising, like I don't have any idea, I don't have any clue. Sometimes our beliefs and the lenses through which we see ourselves, these experiences that we have had, sometimes they are distorted. They are not exactly the way we think they are. For instance, I'm sure that the first time you heard your voice on the microphone, it didn't sound the way it sounded in your head. I can definitely relate to this one. The first time that I heard myself on an audio recording, I was shocked. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, but I was actually surprised. I asked myself, is this actually what I sound like? This was not what I was envisioning. I thought I sounded different. This is not what I expected I sounded like. And just in case you are curious of how that thing happens, while I was researching for this episode, I came across what they call bone conduction. I've heard of the idea before, but I never really cared to explore it. So what it basically is this idea that it's not an idea. It's this thing that when you are talking, eh, the voice that you hear, like the sound you hear, is transmitted to it is sent to your brain from inside. Do you understand? It is sent to your brain from inside. It's not coming from outside. So that is why you sound different when you are talking versus when you hear like the aftermath of the recording. For instance, if you were recording an audio, so it's not the same. So if I'm to use this thing to explain this entire topic, it's as if you hearing yourself from a recording or like from an audio recorder is like validation. Do you understand? But you hearing yourself through bone conduction is like self-perception. Yeah, I think I did a very good job with this particular explanation because this kind of sums it up. So that's the difference. That's the 5 year old summary of what we are actually talking about. And just as I said earlier, it's quite easy for you to get this whole idea of your self perception, like how you see yourself, from external sources. That is from external circumstances. And it can influence how you view yourself. So, speaking of self perception, let me tell you a little story that might sound random, but it totally ties to this whole idea of how we see ourselves. Not too long ago, I got myself a microphone. Actually, this microphone that I'm using to record this. So if you listen to the previous episode and listen to this particular one, you will notice a change in the sound quality. It's not exactly the same. This one for me it sounds better than the previous one, and I'm glad for that. And I hope you noticed it. I hope you noticed it. But at first, after I got it, I was very, very much excited. I was like, okay, this is very cool. I'm going to start recording my podcast with this and see what happens. I doubted it so much. I was like, are you sure that this microphone is going to give you what you wanted for the price you got it? I doubted myself for a while. I mean, I know it's not exactly about me. It's a mic, right? It's a microphone, Abby. But when I plugged it in and I started recording, I noticed that it did a better job. Like for the price, of course. I keep mentioning for the price. I got it during Christmas sales. So at the end of the day, it came out better than I expected it to. So it was as if I had this self perception. I hope I'm using that right. Self perception of what I expected it to be like versus what it ended up being like. And it wasn't that the gear made me capable. It was my voice, my thoughts. And for some reason, that realization, it felt validating. And honestly speaking, I think it's a big deal when it comes to the idea of how we perceive ourselves. And I decided to record this episode. Actually, this microphone was what inspired this episode of self perception and validation. So I have to ask, do you notice a difference in the sound quality between this episode and the last one? And that brings me to something else, which is external validation. We get caught up in it all the time. Every time we are caught up in this idea of validation. People are always asking, how much validation should I accept from strangers, from outsiders? How much should I accept versus how much should I reject? We look for signs from others to tell us that we are worthy, that we are enough. It's something that we have to learn to find within ourselves. Validation doesn't always have to come from the outside. I might have jumped a little too quick into validation, but let's introduce it. Let's rewind a little bit. Validation is tricky. It's that feeling when someone else looks at you and says, that's good, or you're on the right track. No matter how we try to lie to ourselves, sometimes we need that reflection of others to feel validated. It's like having that one friend who always tells you how you look, even when you are unsure. But as we all know, this idea of external validation, it has its own problems. So, especially when we rely too much on external validation, it can sometimes mess with our understanding of ourselves. It can mess it up. What if those people, I mean, this is just a what if question, but what if that person that is giving you that comment, what if they don't mean well for you? What if they just want to ruin your mood? Hmm? I'm not a big fan of all this one is enemy of progress, enemy of progress. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about people being an enemy of progress in your life. No. There are people that just don't mean well all the time. There are people that are sad. A lot of people are sad. People are unhappy. I believe you are on social media. There's no way you're not on social media, right? Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you go to comment section, you will see a lot of people that are sad. Are there happy people there? A lot of people are happy. A lot of people are happy for other people. But there is this fraction of people that they just seem so sad. Like, and it seems as if the only way that they get their own happiness is by ruining other people's happiness. By giving people comments that is not in any way true. It's not in any way true. They're just giving you these comments because they want to ruin your day. And you being you and me being me, we accept it. This person is a random stranger. Sometimes we even go as far as asking ourselves, they couldn't possibly mean any harm for me. They don't even know me. They don't have anything to lose. They don't have anything to gain. See, let me just tell you this. There are people that derive pleasure from seeing other people be as sad as they are. I can't tell you from a first-hand experience, but from what I can see, it probably gives them pleasure. Maybe it doesn't even give them pleasure. Maybe it just makes them feel validated, or maybe that they are not just alone. Now they have made one more person be as sad as they are. But you have to know when to block your ear so that you don't get to listen to these people. That brings me to another idea. When does the line between self-perception and external validation, where does it get blurry? There is usually a gray area between our self-worth and how we perceive ourselves based on how we see ourselves and how others view us. But then someone told you something and then suddenly you questioned everything. I'm curious to know what you think about this whole idea of validation and self-perception thing. So I would like you to head over to Instagram and let me know your takes so that we can keep this conversation going. The username is SCOCPod. SCOCPOD. Again, SCOC as in sometimes curious, often confused. SCOC pod. What actually happens when this validation is missing? Hmm? Fine boy, fine girl. What are you going to do if that validation that you are looking for, if it does not come through? What will you do? I remember a skit I watched some time ago. What happened in that video was that someone crafted a joke. You understand? And we're going to call this person A. And then his friend who was sitting close to him heard the joke. We're going to call this his friend, person B. When person A made this joke, the only person that heard him was person B, his friend. And then person B, after he heard the joke, said it out loud and the whole class started to laugh, including the teacher. Person A tried to raise his hand and say something like, I was the one that crafted that joke. Oh. Like, I'm the one that's supposed to be getting all these laughs and applauses. And the teacher thought that he was being awkward, he was being weird. Like, why do you have to try to steal someone's glory? Meanwhile, he was actually the one that made the joke. Do you understand? But no one else knows aside from this person B. So, and as another teacher was passing through the lobby, this teacher that was, you know, teaching this person A and person B and the rest of the class called the teacher that was passing and told person B to, as in, and told person B to say out this joke again, and person B said it out again, and, and then this teacher that was passing, that is now inside this classroom, started to laugh too, and the whole class was still laughing, and it went on and on and on and on. But this person A in that video, he was so angry and pissed off because this guy just stole his idea and is now running around with it. I think to some at a point in the video, there was someone that was even going around for talent hunts that wanted to pick this person B. And now that I remember that video, it makes me like realize like how mad or how pissed off we can be when we think this validation that we deserve it, because this person A deserved it, right? And this idea of not getting enough applauses, as in as much as you think you deserved, we see it in everywhere. We saw it in the TV series Suits. This character known as Louis, he always complained that he wasn't getting enough applause. He was not getting enough recognition for the work and his contribution in the film. Do you understand? Honestly, I felt for him. I felt sad for him because he was like the guy who wasn't getting enough medals. Maybe in a future episode, I'm going to talk about how I usually start to like the character that people don't like so much, because I know that everyone that I have told about Louis doesn't seem to get it. They don't seem to understand that guy. Everyone loves Harvey, everyone loves Mike, but Louis is just like he's just like the devil. People don't like him so much. I mean, it's only a few people that I have told about him that we are actually like, yes, yes, I understand. And it happens to me a lot in a lot of series. I think I'm going to have to talk about that in the future. Now, I don't think I need to tell you, but just in case you need to hear it, here's the thing. Their validation, it doesn't always have to come from someone else. Hmm? Sure, it feels good when it does, but is it enough? Can we start validating ourselves without needing someone's approval? I think yes, you can. Because even when an opinion, just like validation, is coming from the external, you are still the one in charge. You are the one that will decide that yes, you want to accept this opinion from. You might not know that you're the one in charge of like doing that, but you're actually the one in charge. You are the one that is permitting it. And a lot of times we have this bias towards ourselves. The ones that we only accept are the ones that are negative. Yes, we accept the positive too when it is coming from the outside, but the negative are the only ones we accept from ourselves, which is not kind. You're not being nice to yourself. You might be nice to other people, but you're not being nice to yourself. You're not helping yourself. Eh? Sorry, I'm starting to sound like an advisor, but most of what I'm saying now is from what I have thought about. From I won't say it's 100% from experience, but from what I have seen, you need to be a little kinder to yourself. You understand? Give yourself validation sometimes. Pat yourself in the back. I think your hand can stretch long enough to pat yourself in the back. Or you stretch it and pat yourself in the back and tell yourself, I am doing a good job. So, I want to round up with this. Here is my question. Do we know who we are when the mirror goes dark? How do we find the balance between validation and self perception? How much should be taken from people, whether they are family, whether they are strangers? How much of their opinions should matter? How much of their validation should we crave? How much of it is enough? And how much of it is too much? I would love to hear what you think. Do you find yourself struggling with validation? And what has been your experience with self perception? I would like you to share your thoughts. And if this episode got you thinking, share it with a friend who might be going through the same thing. If you have an episode idea or something you want me to explore, feel free to let me know. You can send me an email, dear SCOC, dear as in how you do in letters, DEAR, dear SCOC at gmail.com. Or if email is too official for you, you can just send me a DM on Instagram. Don't forget to follow the page on Instagram and drop your comments. Your feedbacks are very, very valuable to me. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Until next time, stay curious.